Lance's family says they're very disappointed by that interview and believe.
Hey, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but you might be on YouTube right now. Hey, dude.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear it. I'm not sure, but
This is progress.
I think it's working through OBS. Yesterday, I think I was streaming through just YouTube. Now I think I'm streaming through OBS. I think it's set up, but I don't know if the audio's good or not. I was listening to like my own feedback, and it wasn't that bad. So there's a link inside chat. OBS. I think it's set up, but I don't know if the audio's good or not. I mean, I sound all right. It doesn't sound as good as I do on Discord, but
Test.
there's like a 30-second delay or something like that, or some second delay.
I sound gross. I'm going to start whispering. That's all you've done is created more self-consciousness within me. Thank you.
Yeah. My bad.
That's kind of cool, though.
Just gotta add shit to like the scenes. Gotta remember how to use OBS.
I feel like Razor knows how to. I feel like if he was here, he'd be very helpful. Trying to summon him.
I'll figure it out. I went through and deleted a bunch of shit because like all my scene transitions changed from when I tried this years ago, but just gotta reset it up. We just need to get people to, to dunk on, to show the world the power of Igtheism.
Yep, I'm ready.
Oh shit. I might have to change some wording around inside chat. I think YouTube doesn't like certain stuff.
Oh yeah, what's it not like?
The R word.
Oh. Yeah, you might have to censor a little bit.
I fucking hate it, dude.
You might,
the whole idea of it.
yeah, you might even just need to blur it, right? Like people know what it says, just blur or something.
Hey, country folk, I don't know if you can hear me. Probably can if you're on YouTube. Sorry, I'm new to YouTube, like streaming, but you could always find me. Hold on, I gotta clear my throat. I just took a big rip. Sorry. You could always find me on Discord, on Politics Discord, in the God Ain't Real Prove Me Wrong room. If you ever really want to talk about stuff. But yeah, atheism's stupid as fuck. So is theism. That's what I started this channel for, is to get people to understand the false dichotomy. Sorry, I was chatting to my audience, guys.
You're going to be like one of them chatters that, okay, chat, thumbs up in the side chat if you think atheism's stupid. Thumbs up.
Yeah, put up polls and shit. Yeah, but country folks says atheism is full of hypocrisy and contradictions. I don't know about contradictions, but I don't even know about hypocrisy. I just think it's an incoherent rejection of a even more fundamentally incoherent proposition, so it doesn't make any sense. First, you got to make sense of the God thing, and then you can reject it. Right? Sometimes gods exist. You know what I'm saying? Like especially the old gods, the old ones. You know, the wind, earth, the moon, sun. Those things exist.
You should probably pin this room in the YouTube chat, I'm guessing.
Fuck that shit, dude. That'll just bring like unwanted nonsense, in my opinion. It might work, but I don't know, man.
Well, if you're looking for an audience, that's what you should do.
Yeah. I'm looking to unfuck brains.
This is probably something so stupid it's messing with me.
Did you try penis?
Hey, that wouldn't work. Doesn't fit.
What do you got?
I got a P, I got an A, and I got an S. Starts with P.
So penis
5
did
letters.
work. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
There's an
Almost
A.
as if you were just lying right now.
What was the last
There's
letter?
no other vowel but A.
Penis.
And then I knocked out all these. There's no G, R, L, T. So all the usual suspects for like starting with a P, if it's like Greek, aren't on the table. Like a U or an N or the G. So I think it's a double A today. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know what double A and an S with the starting P is going to be. There's an H on the table, but I can't think of a word that uses PH to start like that.
Phone?
There's the only vowel's A.
Where's the A?
I don't know. It's not in the middle.
But it's PH?
It's just P. P, and then there's an A and an S to put somewhere. S is not at the end.
Yeah, that's good.
And just to be clear, you did try penis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm tapped out.
I tried pilot, pudgy, and pears.
Did you try P-nice?
Penis?
P
Put the A in there.
Penis?
Panis? Watch this not be an English word again. That should be something Middle Eastern.
Maybe I should do some reaction videos to some of these, like this Christane out here thinking Christian has the ignorance of Igtheism. Maybe I should watch that.
I think that's a great idea, to be perfectly honest with you. I know that Professor Dave does a lot of those reaction videos, and they're like live reaction, just off the cuff, you know. I think that's fucking debunks it in real time, you know.
Yeah.
Do it to the Yeah, OBS is like really well oriented for shorts.
Yeah, I got to figure
And the
out how to
YouTube
set that up.
algorithm, the YouTube algorithm is too.
Yeah, I have to learn how to set it up so I can like show the video, pause the video, all that shit. Yeah, like I'm just reading the screen cap because I don't want to click on shit. It'll start playing audio and stuff. I'm not really ready for that. But in his screen cap, he's saying like his manufactured opposition is saying X doesn't exist is an intelligible proposition even when X doesn't exist. See, these people are missing the whole fucking point. It's not about whether you can make the proposition. It's about what would make the proposition coherent. And it's not because it's a string of words you've been familiarized with. It's because it matches the observation. That's why it's coherent. If I say grab me the round thing and it's square, that's confusing.
I thought this wasn't a discussion of the nature of propositions. It was a discussion of that which is we're trying to refer to.
Right. That's why they think it's about the proposition itself, and it's not. Anybody can make propositions. It's just whether the proposition, well, anybody can make a series of words or strings of sentences and stuff like that. It's whether those are propositional or not, which is whether it contains a truth value. And truth value isn't ascertained because it makes you feel good or it sounds right to you. Truth value would be a relationship between your statement and the state of affairs. And that's where meaning is derived when it comes to the nature of objects. Our understanding of things isn't entirely internal. And that's what they're trying to argue is like that I can understand that a rock is heavy the same way that I can understand that a bachelor is an unmarried person. It's that completely different modality. But yeah, I'll have to get it set up to like figure out how to do that.
What are these series of letters you decided to paste? Do you have a legend?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I want to level up, let's say.
Wait, what's an ontological conclusion? That conclusions are epistemological.
No, just copy paste, my friend. I don't care about what I write here.
Ontological things are experience.
Can you help? Oh, I can't stream. 5 words start with Q.
Are you drunk?
I'm drunk? No. Exhausted? Yeah. Sleep for 1 hour only. All day.
Yeah, that's a you problem, man. Look, people are here to prove it, right? We have a challenge in the room.
Wait, what's that? God is entry. Oh, sorry. It's not my place then. Have a nice day.
Fucking moron, dude. Like, I don't even know what just fucking happened. Dude comes in, cuts and pastes like some weird reconstructive shit that I have in side chat, and then acts oblivious. Like, what just happened? Like, is lost? Like, was that AI? Just some like AI chatbot that got lost, just derped out. Is that what happened?
Another lonely being, I guess.
Just doing a test.
Dude, are you serious? They put an onomatopoeia in here rather than another word, a real word.
Just doing a test.
Dude, are you serious? They put an onomatopoeia in here noises rather than another word, a real word.
Wow.
Damn phone calls.
This is just your revolving door now, isn't it?
Yeah, you guys are pretty much second class citizens.
Wow.
I'm gonna get pleb tattooed on my forehead.
Hey, can you guys say things like words?
And stuff and the like of whatnot.
All the words.
I prefer
Every one of
things.
them. I have the best words. Everybody thinks so.
Capital wordsmith here.
Fruit.
Thanks. Yeah, the sound seems to be working. Kind of seeing why streamers have like 9 monitors.
Yeah. It's like it's nice to have 3 to like dedicate one of them to that OBS preview kind of thing.
Testes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Okay, penis. Penis, penis. You guys say something real quick? Okay, I think I figured out the audio problem and being able to like mute specific audio. Okay, I'm just saying words, no test required.
Sorry, I stepped away. Did you say test, 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 test?
No, I'm just working out audio problems, trying to figure out how to, be able to do videos and play the audio versus like mute the audio for YouTube. So I can control
Gotcha.
the audio better, like have it set up per application rather than just global audio. Yeah, it looks like it's working.
choice of the word ignorant here is intentional.
Wow.
Wow.
All right. Now, if I bring up porn, it shouldn't display.
I swear, guys, it said it wouldn't display.
Okay, I'm on a. I don't see anything changing. Let's see if anything changes. Okay, it looks stable. Ooh, I should put up a link to the channel.
I was also like, I had heard some streamers, because occasionally I'll watch streamers doing different shit or whatever. And they did say, or this one guy said, the best way to grow the channel to any kind is like live streams are more for connecting with your audience, and shorts and shit like that are for growing your audience. So I think it's a good thing that you're looking into like shorts and bit size clips and shit like that, because that's how it gets really passed around and grown.
Yeah, I'll just have to get like some of these live streams going, pick up some of our conversations throughout the day, and then maybe go back and make some shorts from good interaction.
Exactly. Just be prepared to like timestamp where you want to go back. Otherwise, you'll be searching forever.
Is there an easy way to do that?
I think that maybe you would just like know how long you've been live or whatever, and then just write the time down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Hold on, let me mute my phone. I'm doing it for audio stuff. But I was watching Ian somebody talk about the Tyler Robinson shit, and he has an app for making a AI do that kind of shit. Like it does it automatically.
Like, would you say something to trigger it? Like, hey, trigger this, timestamp this or some shit like that?
No, it just watches your video, I guess, and you just ask it like to find it, and it does it. It's weird.
Oh, I mean, I suppose, yeah. I mean, AI should be able to do that. Yeah, that makes sense.
I know he's got it set up for the Tyler Robinson trial right now too, but it's just like a fact check thing or something.
That God is not real.
Depends on which one.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that one's not real.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Okay, so can you prove that he wasn't alive?
Yeah,
Or you never-
external critique. I just apply the rule of magic is not real, and just go with that. If you could show me magic, I'll change my argument though.
I
Showing
will
magic.
accept I will
Yeah,
accept evidence of Jesus at the time of Jesus.
I'll consider Jesus Christ having been real if you can prove to me that it's possible to like walk on water or some shit like that. Turn water into wine. You know?
There's some proof with the tomb, you know, like with the not them opening or anything, just like there's rags and stuff in there, and then there's burnings on the rags of him being resurrected. And then same thing with this doesn't have to do with Jesus, but you know, remember that fire tornado that was in the Bible? Yeah, there's still markings of that till this day on that same beach. They took pictures of it. Same burnt
So you have burnt
places.
cloth.
With the
a
cloth.
tomb?
Yeah, that's where he.
Okay, that doesn't
That's where
prove
they
magic.
buried him. Well, not buried
That's
him.
not evidence of Jesus at the time of Jesus.
Do
So
you
who
think
was
I
it?
lack belief
They were
in
just
magic
saying
because
it's
I didn't
someone else.
have like burnt cloth and empty tombs and stuff? That's why I don't believe in magic.
No,
Be
that's just
any number
that's just one bit of the
of
part of
regular
some proof.
Bronze Age people, dude.
There's some proof with the this doesn't have to do with Jesus, but it has to do with God. With the remember that wave, that big old thing where Noah split it in part. I forgot. There's somewhere in that.
Hey,
there's some
can you
proof
just
that
go
actually
ahead and
happened.
assume that everything we know is in the Bible we believe is bullshit just to like
I just
cut
like
through
to
the
find
stuff?
proof in the Bible. There is really hard
Hold
to
on,
find it, but
hold on.
there's
I
some
was
places.
saying something. I was saying something to you. It'll help facilitate the conversation. So whenever you want to cite the Bible, that's fine. But just assume that we're going to call bullshit. That citing the Bible's
Oh, I don't
never
have a
going to
problem
work.
with that.
Right?
That's
You get
fine.
that? So you're trying to convince us this isn't Bible study.
I'm not trying to convince. I'm just trying to tell y'all what I've found.
Here's the biggest problem with that, man.
I'm
And
not a
this
big
is
Bible guy.
this is a problem with most Bible book believers. Is the Bible is the claim. So to use anything in the Bible to substantiate the Bible is circular and stupid.
Right, like we got the Quran, right? We got the Koran. You don't believe the Koran, do you? Or the Vedas? Or the Gitas?
I think with all the other religions, I think they tie back into Christianity.
They
That's
don't.
my,
They're
opinion
actually
about it.
older than, like Hinduism, that's older than Christianity. I don't know
I
if you
understand
knew
it's
that.
older, but when they were teaching us in school about all of them, it seemed like they all combined into one. Like they
Us?
all led back to the same thing.
Yeah, they were
saying the
gaslighting
same
you.
stuff.
If I was gaslighting, that's exactly what I would do. I would manipulate the person to believe me with false narratives. That's what that is. That's a false narrative, and you believed it, so you were gaslit.
I guess everyone in that classroom was gaslit.
Yeah, that's well. Everyone in churches, everyone at home is being gaslit. That's just how it works, man.
if it makes you feel any better, you're not the only one that this has ever happened to. Now, what you should do is realize, and it's hard to do it, but especially when somebody points it out, it's a lot more helpful, realize that you were gaslit, fed a bunch of bullshit information, and then start analyzing the information that they fed you like a grown adult would. Let's talk about any one of the magic spells that are in the Bible book. Is there any proof that magic exists?
I knew nothing about magic spells in the Bible. I've never heard about that.
Literally calls people wizards in the Bible, dude. Says don't talk to wizards or some shit.
Let's just talk about the magic, the magic of insurrection. Or, I'm sorry, insurrection, resurrection. Is that even possible? We have no evidence of resurrection.
Jesus said it was.
And when the zombies came back and started walking amongst the living, we have absolutely no evidence that that's anywhere close to possible.
Yeah, it's an uphill battle, man.
The Romans aren't going to give any proof because they wanted to literally disintegrate that guy because he was claiming he was the son of God, and the Romans were wanting to be their own gods, so that didn't work out.
Well, okay, so we're way past the Romans though. Okay, yeah, maybe there was proof and they covered it up, big conspiracy. Maybe. What about in 2026? Does the proof stop at a certain time? We'll say in Roman days, fuck it, man. They covered it up really well. There were zombies, and they fucking got up out of the graves. They started walking around amongst the population. Did that shit stop happening? And after the fall of Rome, did it just stop? And then there was no more, zombies. And in 2026, we're left to wonder, well, fuck, did that really happen or not? Or should we be seeing zombies today just like it was back then?
When they say zombie, did they said zombies in the Bible?
Well, we
or
call
did they
them
say
zombies.
another word?
It just says that he returned from the dead, and then kings and priests in the city too. There were hundreds. Well, we don't really know how many, but the entire city of prominent dead people rose from the dead too. So we would just call that
zombie saints, tomato.
Oh. Wait, so you're saying when they said Jesus resurrected, a whole bunch of other people did too?
Yeah, priests, saints,
strange.
stuff like that, prominent people, kings and stuff, or princes. You'd have to
It's
read
in
the
Matthew.
verse, but yeah, other people came back too. This is one of the main criticisms is when you look at if you take history classes or anthropology or archaeology classes, narrative is accepted as some kind of evidence, but narrative is the worst kind of evidence unless it's narrative of defeat, because those kinds of narratives are much less to be biased, right? They're probably going to put some spin on it, but you're more likely to make yourself look better than admit defeat. So when you find narrative that says, hey, we got our shit pushed in, well, that's more reliable evidence than the narrative that says we pushed their shit in, right? It's not to say it did or didn't happen. It's just you're dealing with old times, and so you got to take the evidence as it is. And the best kinds of archaeological evidence are things like shipping receipts and stuff like that, just manifests and just benign stuff that give you kind of a understanding of what was going on at the time. But you guys are relying entirely on narrative support by magic. That's a problem. It's 2026. If you were hey man, do you remember when Vegas was destroyed by angels? And I was yeah, I remember that. That would be a good example. It's not make more appeals to magic that I can't experience. No amount of appeals to magic I can't experience is going to get me to accept magic that I can experience. That's kind of where you're locked in, is you were gaslit a long time ago in your youth, and your brain just stopped developing at that point, and you're an adult that believes in magic. You should have left that, but the reason you didn't leave that, along with Santa Claus, Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, is because your culture stopped gaslighting you in those. They just gave up. You got old enough. You gave a little bit of pushback. So they stopped. But when you gave pushback to religion, well, they didn't stop. They didn't stop. They keep doubling down. They make up all kinds of excuses. They throw a book at you. Some people get kicked out of their houses, killed, drowned, all kinds of stuff, man. It's insanely irrational. So we're asking you to like show me how to summon a demon, bro. Show me that I can cast a fireball or teleport or resurrect. Give me the spell and I'll go resurrect someone that's fully dead. There's a cemetery not too far away. I'll go there. I'll do the spell. When the guy comes back from the dead, I'll shoot him in the head. I'll come back to Discord and I'll be like, dude, you were right.
Well,
I now believe in that.
Is real, you would have to ask that guy because I don't think God would tell you.
Did you ask that guy and get confirmation and go cast wizard spells? Or are you just gaslighting me the way that you were gaslit?
Well, I was in my youth, I was in church a lot. Well, they forced me to go to church, so
That's the
that's where all
gaslighting
the-
I'm talking about.
that's where all the
it
God
right there.
stuff comes from.
Yeah, you were gaslit. You just believed your elders. That's what the Hindi, the Buddhists, the Muslims, the Jews, all of them. They're all doing that. They're being gaslit by their elders. It's okay to gaslight your children if you are gaslighting with the way that you are convicted of the gaslighting. And we wouldn't call that gaslighting. We would just call that teaching your kid the things that you believe. It becomes gaslighting with, this is the example I give. If you come into this room and you ultimately argue that it's based on faith, but then you go back and teach your child as it's absolutely certain, that's the gaslighting right there. That's what makes it gaslighting. If you're teaching your kid on the faith that you believe, that's not gaslighting. I would say it's wrong, you shouldn't do it, but that's not malicious, right? You're not.
Bro, they
shaping
made
the
me
narrative.
play Jesus in a play at the church. I had to do that in front of all these people. No
Bro,
one
I
else
was in
wanted to do
church
it.
too.
They were so pussy.
You're telling an account no one needs you to tell because we're all aware of that. That's exactly what happened.
Have you ever noticed that people that go to church every single Sunday probably are the worst people inside their own house? I know that because I've lived with one.
Have you noticed that basically every single human being is practically the same and we're all capable and, you know, we're all latent murderers, rapists, and we all have that capacity. Every single one of us. There's no like, you're special because you believe this philosophy. No, your brain works like a human.
It's just the fact that if people want to push their mental state to that point of murder or whatever you said, you know, I would never do that. That's so fucked up.
Well, you say that.
Yeah, don't say
No,
most
no, that
murderers
is
say that.
one thing I would decline myself from
Bro, if
doing
you were to
something
go
like
back-
now murder, that's different.
If you were to go
there's
back
a
when
reason
Ted Bundy
behind
was
it.
a child and ask Ted Bundy, do you think you're going to grow up to be a murder rapist? You think he's going to say yeah, or you think he's going to be appalled? I think he would be appalled.
Yeah, I think he would laugh and probably say no.
Right. He would be disgusted and all that, but his life led him to be what we discovered, right? No one chooses to do this. This is a product of our lives. Like you could watch the account of Jeffrey Dahmer, right? He tells you, like, he's very open about his life once he was convicted and shit. You make these people sociopaths, serial killers, and stuff that are mostly made. There's definitely some probably predispositions to psychopathy, sociopathy, and stuff like that. But it's definitely more tied into the, you know, when you think nature nurture, it's more of a nurture thing. Because even though you may be born a sociopath, if you were born in a household that knows how to look for the triggers and stuff that and raise you properly, give you all the mental coping tools and stuff that, you'd probably be just fine in society. You won't kill people, murder people, stuff. You'll probably be a dick because you're a sociopath, but you'll be able to cope. You can learn to navigate society as long as you have the help to get you there. Obviously, people don't always have the help to get us there. The village doesn't raise the child, and the child kills people in the village. Kind of, it's unfortunate, but that's human dynamics, man. You know,
I'm
Hitler
not the
wasn't
best
born
person,
that
but
way.
I'm not the worst person. Like, I helped a dog today. Dude flagged me down, jumped in my car, and then I took him to an animal shelter. I think they're gonna find his home because he doesn't have a chip, but he has a leash with a number on it. I called the number, no one answered. So they must be working or sleeping in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, I barely even go up there.
Yeah.
I wanted to keep that dog. That is the most nicest dog I've ever seen. It was like the Dukes of Hazzard dog. You know that dog?
Yeah, it was
Look,
a
I'm gonna
bloodhound
take
or
yeah.
something.
A
I think.
shepherd?
No, it was a hound of some kind, big yellow. Like,
Yeah, it's a hound dog, but they're like short.
red, yellow, or something.
Yeah, like orange.
Yeah, orange. I'm colorblind, dude. I'm bad with colors.
Oh, that's a basset hound for sure.
I was trying to find the animal shelter. People were just walking by smiling at the dog. It's like, it's not my dog. Dude was sitting in the car like he owned it. Like he was just like, all right, let's go. And I started driving. He was like looking how I was looking. That's so strange. He's like, he knows where his home is and he doesn't care. He's supposed to go with me. Like, okay, bud.
Well, I'll pick the theme for you. We are a socially advanced species, so when you keep that in mind, you kind of understand how humans interact with certain things. And what we're pointing at is what you just gave us, right? The what they did to the church. Yeah, I've been there, man. 18 years of some South Winter Baptist church, right? I'm a bit stubborn to adopt what they believe and shit, but that's still social inculcation of what they did.
They're very nice. I was in Baptist too. That's all I was in was Baptist. They're really freaking nice until they turn the corner or they turn around with their back. Like, and then they preach about stuff like this one time this preacher was preaching and he included his like $2 million church into the preach. It's like, nigga, did you really have to say that?
Don't
Like,
say
what was
that
the
word.
point of
Hey,
even
don't
saying
use that
any of
language,
that?
man.
It's so dumb. So dumb.
Did you hear what we just said?
What?
Don't use that language.
What language?
The N word. I
The
don't
word
care.
you
Any
just said.
variation of that, I don't tolerate it.
We're in God Ain't Real and we can't say a word.
Are you giving me lip about that? You're in my chat room. You're not going to use the language I tell you that you're not going to fucking use. There's no debate. If I say you can't use the word fucking taco, you can't use the word taco.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and leave because I really don't
Good.
care.
Go fuck yourself, retard. Fucking knuckle dragging piece of shit, racist motherfucker. Think I give a fuck if your dog shit ass fucking leaves?
Wow.
Wow. That guy was retarded.
Oh, we're live on YouTube, so I know I just fucked up, but
Oh,
yeah.
What are we? What
Can
are
I-
the
can I abstain?
seven deadly words?
No, I don't think it's banned. I don't think the R word is banned, but
Okay.
You can like
Calm down on it.
no, just that YouTube can strike you for just being a dick, I guess. Like, just,
Yeah, it's stupid.
yeah.
Is it like saying
So-
Discord to us, but just no R word?
Touchy.
Well, I think you just like maybe cool it down and like be if like you're insulting someone or something.
No, I
I
just
think you
call
can
them
use
the
the
R
word, but
word.
like
I'll
yeah.
just say the R word, right? The R word.
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly the same thing as the other word. So censorship is fucking stupid
agnostic.
like that.
You know about Destiny, right? Like he uses the
Yeah.
R slur. Like it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but right now I have 3 watchers and one of them's me. Okay, so I don't really have the weight of destiny.
I don't really have the weight of destiny. I'm not there yet.
No, I'm just saying like he's big, you know what I mean? Like he's nothing happened or something like that.
Never heard of her. That was
Barely
okay.
knew her.
Destiny.
Yeah, I didn't get that, Kel. Yeah, man. I hope it works out. Like this YouTube thing.
Well, I don't really need it to work out per se. I just want to get information out there because there's not really a lot of Igtheists out there like debating live and shit on Igtheism. You know, JL was like, "Oh, come on,
Right.
there's on an atheist stream and shit." And it's just like, but you're an atheist. Like, fuck atheism, dude. It's fucking stupid. Like, why would I want to promote an atheist channel like that? Like, I don't have an issue
Yeah.
with like cross collaboration and shit, but people already think that Igtheism is like a subset of atheism. So just, you know, I don't mind like working together on stuff, but you know, atheists just got to understand I disagree with atheism. It's stupid. It's a useless it's a contingent philosophy, right? You have to wait like a little bitch for the theist to come around and tell you what to fucking think so that you can then oppose it. It's just a dumb fucking philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, get your own burden of proof, right? Like, why would an atheist want the burden of proof of knowing what the fuck a god is so that they can object to god claims? Like, you don't need to know what the fuck a god is. You just need to know the linguistics behind it, that it's stupid to talk that way. They don't get that they're legitimizing theism to try to shit on theism. So, like, hell, I'll even work with a theist. I'll collaborate. You hear that, atheist? I'll collaborate with a theist to help you understand how atheism is stupid, and I'll collaborate with an atheist to help a theist understand how theism's stupid. It's crazy how hard it is to unfuck a brain now.
Well, there's a lot of biases out there, man, like anchoring bias. You know, I mean, trying to overcome anchoring bias is difficult. I even find myself in my day-to-day work life, or whatever the case, getting fed a new piece of information that you know, is probably correct, but I'm still, for whatever reason, anchored to that original piece of information. And I would imagine that it's very similar with, you know, the fucking theists. They cannot see themselves. I'd imagine it's like trying to accept that you've been wrong for so long is pretty difficult as well. Or seeing like, God damn, you're right. There isn't a such thing as magic.
Well, with atheists, I believe on especially like on YouTube and stuff like that, it's like that. It's, I don't want to say like an air of confidence or whatever, but you have like a bunch of atheists, prominent people, smart people, all arguing for this atheism, kind of propping up the idea, but there's no idea there. You ask an atheist, what's your burden of proof? They don't have it. That should be a huge red flag in their brain that they don't have a philosophy there. You have a multitude of philosophies, but you don't have an atheism philosophy. So get rid of the ism. And then what are you left with? You're just left with theism. And the question is that shit coherent? The answer is no. It's not coherent. There's no way to reject theism. You have to scope in theism for you to be able to reject whatever you're saying theism is. Theism's concept changes from the one person to the next. And then the atheists get locked in on all the ones that don't exist. I don't know how many times I've heard an atheist accept that, and then I give them a God that exists, and they tell me it's not a God. Like, how many times that happened?
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh, well, I don't believe that's a God. Who in the fuck are you to say anything about who is in what is a God or not? Are we, or is the F word, you think, bad?
No, I think you
No,
can
we
say
can say
fuck, shit, all that shit. Just
Okay.
no like
I just-
racial stuff.
Yeah. I don't have to worry about that from me. I'll calm down on the R word thing though. I'll just say stupid.
Yeah, dumb, things like that. Chat, if you ever hear me use words like moron, dumb, idiot, things like that, they're all fill-ins for a more offensive word. I'm a shitbag. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a fucking asshole. So
Knucklehead.
Yeah, knuckle dragger. If you hear me say knuckle dragger, it's just me skirting toss violations. It's got to be one of my favorite insults. And it's unfortunate, too, that we don't have a word that doesn't hurt unintended targets.
Yeah. I think people have taken a lot of these words way too seriously anyway. Well, there's some obviously that I don't have any tolerance for, but others like the R word. I get it, but fuck, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, atheism, yeah, it's dumb. It's fucking dumb. It ain't like, say like not stamp collecting. Well, when you tell me you don't collect stamps, I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about, like every single time. It's not like ever a stamp collector, a stamp collector come up and said, hey, I'm a stamp collector. And I was like, yeah, I don't collect stamps. And then it was like about tacos, right? No, it was literally the things you put on fucking letters to mail the shit. Almost every, I don't know of a single time somebody fucked with me that way. Always the same thing. So I can reject that. I can say, hey, I don't do that activity. Okay, but what about theism? Do I God? Well, what is Godding? What does that look like? What does it look like to God? Well, ask somebody. Ask what some random person, they'll either tell you this is what it means to God or not God. And it's up to them. I don't know on my own time. I don't know how to God or not God. I don't have that. Atheists, though. Atheists have been gaslit into believing they know what is God and what is not God. That they can distinguish between those things. And to a degree they can. From their history of inculcation, from their little group of the gods they mean, they can reject that. But why do I give a shit about what you individually mean? An atheist is God. Like, shut up. Like, your opinion on the matter doesn't matter because you're not weighing in. You're weighing out. You get to tell me what God's not, I guess, logically. That's logically coherent with your position, what God's not. But you don't get to tell me what God is. That's the atheist's job, or the theist's job to do that, to tell me what God is. You guys just get to sit there and be like, no. But then when you do that, what credibility do you have as some expert to rule in or rule out gods? Seems like you're just making that shit up. All right, question mark. Prove it.
This guy can't prove shit.
Yeah, this nerd can't prove shit, dude.
Is that true? Question mark. You're getting talked some shit about, huh?
Come on, do something. Mic up, do something. This motherfucker's a chat free letter.
Wow.
Unmuting himself.
Well, he can come back.
Are you having trouble? Oh. Yeah, this
Come back in 2 days when he's figured his mic issue out and he's not a chat free letter.
How do you disinfo? How do you do that?
I don't know. Spread a bunch of lies.
No, that's this guy's name. Or well, maybe I got that. Or this lady's name.
You gonna prove it? You gonna prove it? What are you gonna do here? Proving it or not?
Prove what? God ain't real.
Yeah.
No, I'm an agnostic atheist, so sorry. I'm not gonna listen.
So you're saying you can't prove it?
I can't. No, it's unfalsifiable.
Then I win. Get wrecked, nerd.
Fucking dominated.
Fucking
Why
dominated.
can't you prove it? You believe in something stupid like atheism, huh?
I mean, it's an unfalsifiable claim anyway. So I mean, it's like.
Says who?
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying atheism is unfalsifiable? I agree. It's a stupid claim.
Yeah. Like I just feel like.
Yeah, so why do you
There's no way.
atheism? If you recognize
I'm,
that about atheism, why do you do it?
I'm an agnostic atheist,
Yeah,
so like
still, same question.
Yeah, but you
applies.
can do better.
I feel like even though there's like no way of knowing that God is real or not, I'm not convinced of the arguments that there
Yeah,
is
but there's a
one.
proposition you're making there that's worth consideration. You're saying that you don't think God is able to be proven or not proven.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are you saying that? What is causing you to form those mouth sounds?
Vibes.
Right. Vibes.
Yeah. Vibes. I
Right.
can't
That's
really
why
say
coming into the
actually.
conversation, my assumption is on the topic of God ain't real, prove me wrong, that you can't prove it. That's an assumption. Some people can. Some people walk in here and they say, I could prove God. And I'm like, all right, prove it. And then they point at a thing that's real and they just call it God. And so they've done it. They've proven a God exists. But the question is that thing a God? I don't fucking know. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's a God. It's real. It has ontological status. I just disagree epistemically sometimes. Like they'll say the sun is God. Well, the sun's real, so that God exists. I just don't know if it's a God, but it's real. So this is a trivial task, and you're going around making it seem like it's a difficult task to prove the existence or non-existence of the God thing. I guarantee you could go through a whole list of gods that you would conclude don't exist. What about Zeus? Does Zeus exist?
I see statues, bro.
I don't think Zeus exists either, but the question is Zeus a god? I don't know. The only reason I believe Zeus is in the god category is because some monkey pointed at Zeus and said Zeus is a god. That's the only reason. It's not like I looked at Zeus and I was like, it's that attribute right there. That's what makes him a god. Or I didn't find that attribute in Zeus and I was like, yep, he's not a god. He doesn't have the god-bearing attribute. That's the atheist position, is the atheists are convinced that they know what the God-bearing attribute is, and they've formulated a full, air quote, philosophy around that, and they go around informing people of their ism, which is not an ism. It's just, I don't believe whatever that person's saying. But that person saying can say all kinds of shit. All kinds have been said. Like there's a plethora. You can go online, what is a god, and look them all up. There's a shitload of them. Some of them are real, some of them aren't. So I don't know why you're an agnostic. An agnostic, somebody who doesn't know, is just easily filled in. I could just tell you. You don't know what a triangle is? This is a triangle. You should be like, oh, that's the agnostic position is, oh, I didn't know that. But when I show you a triangle, if you're like, no, that's not a triangle, you're not agnostic. That's not agnosticism. That's knowledge. You're looking at something and you're declaring it's not it. Maybe it's a square that I'm holding up, not a triangle. So you're like, that's not a triangle. But you can only tell me it's not a triangle if you already know what triangles are. You don't get to say it's not a triangle if you don't know what triangles are. And because Earl down the fucking road told you what triangles are, that's not good justification for what triangles are. Like in reality, if they are in reality. This is why atheism's stupid. It's why you can't actually defend atheism. You could just offer good reasons why you don't accept that person's claim. But when you take all of that person's claims, like all the different that persons, and try to paint with a broad brush on that shit and say all those that persons, all those people are saying the same thing categorically, no, they're not. They're not saying the same thing categorically. They're saying multiple different things on multiple different categories that are completely not interrelated. And you guys are just going around drawing a big fucking circle around all that incoherent, inconsistent, contradictory bullshit and then saying, I don't believe in it. I believe in what?
Hello? Think you vapor locked her.
It's not my fault, dude. That's her parents' fault. They did this.
Vapor lock.
You hear this, that girl's parents? You did that to her. You. Fucking asshole. And that's what happens when you have the atheisms. Some of them's more sophisticated, but that is typically atheism right there. That's like 80% of the atheists in the world is just that, just this vapid brain lock. Nothing really going on insofar as a philosophical position. Just, I don't believe that. It's just brain lock. But then there's just all you get is just more and more sophisticated examples of why specific gods should not be accepted or don't accept, they're not accepted or whatever. But those are just specific things being referred to as gods. Some of them exist. What part of that don't atheists get? Sometimes gods exist. Atheism's the lack of belief in the existence of a god. Like there's literally not a single god that an atheist can accept exists. And I understand the linguistic trick that's being asserted here with the sun being a god, but you should understand that you don't have a good linguistic out, right? There's no linguistic out. You just got to take it deep all the way in or change it. Like change your fucking philosophy. Get a better philosophy.
They also have no authority to say that it's not a god, though. Like none.
Yep. It's just, let me fall back on my inculcation and say things like, well, the sun's not all powerful. The sun doesn't know everything. Well, no one said the sun was all powerful or that it knew everything. Why are you saying the God-bearing characteristic is knowing everything and being able to do everything? How did you figure that out?
Giving ground to the Christians. That's it. Giving ground to the theists. Giving a lot of unnecessary ground. I don't see why anybody would voluntarily do that.
So, like, I gave you a position, a string of assertions as to why your position is just bad. It's just a bad position. Do you have anything at all going on in there?
I low-key have all my positions derived from vibes, and I need to think more about my vibes. So
why do you keep introducing low-key as a god?
Does vibes get you close to truth?
Sometimes.
Is it reliable?
No.
Why would you use it then? Like, why would you even consider using it? I get it's kind of a joke, but in all seriousness, like, why would that even come out of your mouth? Like, what benefit does vibes
to explain something, so I had like 2 days, right, where I tried to make myself a Christian. Like last week, I spent like 2 days like trying to, because I knew that the mental health benefits of it, and my sole motivation to believe in God was like just to.
So you sold everything you owned and just started venturing out, because that's what Jesus said to do, right?
Wait, sorry, say that again.
What did Jesus say to do to become a true Christian if you did?
I don't know, you tell me.
Well, you're the one who said that I was just being a real Christian, right? So, I mean, Jesus said it himself. It's in the book, so come on.
Well, I was laughing in a way, but I tried to I don't know, I watched a few TikToks, right, of like Christian TikToks, and I was like, wow, it's like really moving. So like I spent like 2 days trying to actually convince myself that God could save me, and like Jesus was like the Son of God or whatever.
No, that wasn't God. That was a specific form of God that you've been inculcated to accept.
I guess. And then
why didn't you pick the sun? Why didn't you pick Quetzalcoatl or the trickster coyote? Does the trickster coyote not do it for you? Or the Apache just a bunch of dumbasses that don't know how to supernatural?
I don't even know what that is.
She's all about low.
The trickster coyote is we'll call it a myth of the Apache. Have you ever heard of the Apache?
No.
They're Native Americans, indigenous Americans.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of the, I don't know what their real name is, but we call them the Apache, and one of their beliefs is the trickster coyote. Did they just
Okay.
supernatural wrong, and they're wrong about all that shit, and that's why you didn't try the trickster coyote mythology and you went with Christianity, or you think it's
I mean,
inculcation?
I mean,
We're in proximity
be
to
right. I feel
Christians, and
like,
they're the ones that have access to your brain and the ones that brainwash you.
I mean, they could be right too. I just have to look into them.
Yeah, but you didn't, and my question is why?
I don't know. I just wasn't aware of them, but now I am. I will look into them.
Well, I gave you the answer. It was a semi-rhetorical question because I answered it for you. The reason you landed on the Jesus creature of the Bible book is because you were in proximity to people who believed in the Jesus creature of the Bible book.
Yeah.
If you were in proximity to the Apache, you'd be keeping your kid in at night because you wouldn't want Big Al to get him. Right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And you would have said, hey, I tried it. I kicked my kid outside of the teepee last night and he came back just fine. Right? That would be like a semi-quasi-consistent experiment that you could do to see if your kid's going to get kidnapped by a big fucking owl, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't do that because you weren't inculcated that way. So the foundation of any credibility you have in your brain about what this God thing is inculcation. You were gaslit by people. They just filled your brain with nonsense. And then you considered that nonsense and you were like, yeah, I considered nonsense and I've reached a valid conclusion. Your conclusion, if it's valid, should be that you considered nonsense. Not that the nonsense you considered was either valid. Like, just because you kick your kid out in a teepee in the middle of the night doesn't mean Big Owl doesn't exist if your kid survives. There could still be a magic fucking owl out there that kidnaps kids. But that's not going to rule it out, right? No amount of experiments is going to rule that out. You got to rule it in. Epistemically needs to be justified, right? What is the justification for epistemic claims? And I would say, well, about Big Owl would be the ontological status of Big Owl, not the epistemology we come to conclude that, oh yeah, it's bullshit. My kid keeps 30 nights in a row, I kicked him out the teepee and he came back. Maybe Big Al knows about that shit. And he was like, yeah, watch this. I ain't going to kidnap your kid. Not today. And then in like 90 days, he kidnaps the kid. So look, I mean, yeah, you did a set of experiments, but you've concluded something that bites off more than you could chew here. You could conclude that you tried a little bit of Christianity and apparently it didn't work. Does that mean Christ ain't real? No. There's got to be better ways to rule out Christ.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you take something you do know is true, right? That's what I do. I know something's true. Magic ain't real. Magic ain't fucking real. So anybody claiming magical bullshit, that's wrong. Prove me wrong. I'm willing to change. Just cast one spell at me.
Yeah, I also don't agree magic is real. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also almost like you don't believe that linguistics has merit and the ability to properly represent meaning in discourse, specifically in context of these kinds of conversations about nature, about reality. Language can do that for us. It could also go wrong. So you got to understand how we're communicating, why we're communicating, what we're communicating. What is communication? What is language? What are we doing when we're talking? There's rules to this. If we violate those rules, we ain't languaging.
Right.
It's like chess got rules, right? If we violate the rules, we're not playing chess. Linguistics is not that dissimilar. There's rules to it. There's ways to detect that we're violating the rules. If you're making a claim about a thing that exists external to your mind, then you need some kind of experience of that. Because that's what you're going to appeal to, is the experience. To me, you're going to be like, hey, you see that thing? You're not asking me to experience your experience. You're asking me to experience the thing you're experiencing. That's the shared experience. People think that private thoughts constitute experience in this regard. And that may be the case, that you're certainly having a private thought and an experience. But when we're talking about the way that you can understand the nature of an object is by way of experience, it would be the experience that is shared. That you see it, I see it. That's how we know things are real. And then we understand what they are through that communication. Do you see it's blue? Yeah, I see it's blue. Is it round? Yeah, it's round, right? We agree to the observation. We experience it. But if you want to make a claim absent an experience, it's a non sequitur. It's going to be a non sequitur. There's no way to do it and it not be a non sequitur. Absent the experience, is the thing blue? Well, I mean, it's just as likely to be blue as not blue absent the experience. So both statements, it's blue is a non sequitur and it's not blue is a non sequitur. So what is this doing for us? Nothing. It's just circle jerking our own imagination. Like, we're ground monkeys on a mud ball. We're still smashing stuff together to figure out what stuff is. So why do you think that we get to weigh in on alleged questions that allege to levels of reality that we just don't have any access to? What could we possibly say about that? Nothing. We've already baked into the question everything we need to determine. There's nothing we can ask. It's beyond our perceptions. If things are beyond our perceptions, we can't say anything about them. We could say things about them that pertain to our inability to experience them. There's not an elephant. I'm experiencing not an elephant in my room. There's not an elephant here. I can attest to that, but that only because I know what a fucking elephant is. If a smorgalwort was in my room, I wouldn't know if there is or isn't. What the fuck is a smorgalwort? I'd have to know that first, and then I'd be, oh yeah, that it's right there. But I know what an elephant is, and they're big enough that I can rule them out. I don't gotta go look behind things. Is there a chinchilla in my room? Well, I don't know. I'd have to, maybe somebody snuck a chinchilla in my room at some point, and there is. And my statement, no, there's no chinchilla, is only backed by my immediate experience. I'm looking around, I don't see a chinchilla, but there's shoes. Chinchilla can hide in that. There's like a chair, it could be hiding behind that. So my confidence level goes down with chinchilla. It's still pretty high. There's no chinchilla in my room. But my confidence level goes down because my ability to do the immediate experience and make that evaluation goes down. I'd have to get up off my ass for a chinchilla, and I don't have to get up off my ass for an elephant. But this is all hinged on the notion that I already know what these things are. We've already discussed and hashed out the nature of chinchillas and elephants so that we can make that evaluation. You just saying, well, I'm an agnostic atheist. Okay? Towards what? And that's the conversation. You're saying towards an elephant, and I'm saying, I don't know what the fucking elephant is. What's an elephant? Right? You're like, well, it's just a thing that's outside ability to describe. Well, if that's what it is, then an elephant ain't anything. Because things are what they are by virtue of their existence, right? They're real, they got properties. We just come along and make observations and say, hey, this is what I see. That's the nature of describing objects. This isn't complicated. It got complicating when you were gaslit that this isn't the standard that you should be employing in these kinds of conversations. You've been gaslit to a different standard, apparently. I guess, I don't know if it's a more rigorous standard, but if you're going to make a claim about the nature of an object absent an experience of the referent, then what the fuck are you talking about? You're talking about your imagination. That's what we're talking about, your imagination. Because that experience is going to be the only non-arbitrary aspect of the conversation about the thing. When we get into epistemology, that's heavily laden with symbolic representations and meanings. So it's like immediately it becomes ambiguous. The observation's not ambiguous. It's non-arbitrary, right? You're observing square. It's fucking square. Like, that's not ambiguous, right? It's just you're observing a square. But if you say, okay, well, let's disconnect an object from shape, what shape is the object? Amorphous? I don't know. Maybe it is. It could be a square. Be an amorphous blob, right? It could be a no shape. It's like, this is why it's so much easier to just make an observation and then talk about the experience. But people don't want to do that. People don't want to sit back and wait for an experience of the things that they're believing in all the time. And with religion, this is a case of people not wanting to just wait for an experience to believe something about the thing. They inject into it with their imagination. They say, it loves me. It's going to let me teleport when I die.
Yeah, I guess like if a God really existed, why would the human mind be able to comprehend it, I guess?
Why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it be able to comprehend it? Is an
Because it's like
equally
so much
valid
larger
question.
than us on like
How
a
do you know
metaphysical
that?
level.
How do you know it's not smaller than us on a non-physical level, right? Every statement you're going to make about God, its negation question is equally valid, absent the experience, absent the thing being real. Every question you ask about it can easily be negated by its negation. This is the nature of it being a non sequitur. If you say, how can it be blue? Well, how can it not be blue?
That's true.
Every single statement, absent the observation, is going to have that problem. That's the nature of what a non sequitur is. So it's not that God's not real and it ain't blue and square. It's that it being yellow and triangular is equally as valid.
So it's just nothing.
No. Sometimes it's something. Sometimes
can
you
be
say, what's a
anything
God?
or
And they say
nothing.
that thing right there, that thing right. They give you the experience I'm crying about right now. Some people actually meet that burden. They say, here is God. This thing here is God. Like the sun, earthquakes, the moon, stars, planets. These things have been heralded as gods. They've been saying, hey, people have been saying that thing is God, and I'm going to kill this virgin because of it. Right? That's what they're doing. They're not saying, hey, that imaginary thing in the sky. The sun is not an imaginary thing in the sky. It's a real thing in the sky. They're just of the assumption in their epistemology that it wants them to kill a virgin. I'm under the assumption that it fucking hates me because I'm a ginger. Like right now, I cannot go outside because the sun is being a fucking dick right now.
Yeah.
You see, I've anthropomorphized the sun. Does that mean the sun doesn't exist because I've personified it? I said it's a dick and it hates gingers? No. It doesn't lack existence because I've said it's a person. It's a ball of plasma is what it is, and I'm a day walker, so we're incompatible, and I go out in it, and it's, but I could give attitudes and beliefs, right? I could say that it has a big battle in the sky, and that's why it dies every night. People said that about the thing. I don't conclude gods aren't real. I conclude what the fuck is a god before I answer whether God's real. And I've done that because sometimes people point at things are real, and I recognize the burden I'll be picking up if I say that thing's not a god. I have no credibility in saying what is and isn't a god. And neither do atheists. They have no right to go around telling anybody what a god is or what a god isn't. They can say in my mind, these are my convictions, and that's fine, but I might not be talking to you. I might be talking to this guy who's saying the Eiffel Tower is God. And I'm not going to say Eiffel Tower's not real because I'm an atheist and I have to deny all gods. And I'm not going to say the Eiffel Tower's not a god because I don't know what fucking gods are. And I understand that if I say the Eiffel Tower's not a god, that's a burden I cannot justify. I'm going to say, well, it's not omnipotent. But not all gods that people accept as gods are omnipotent, right? Zeus is not omnipotent. So the Eiffel Tower being not omnipotent is not a limiter, apparently, as far as I can tell, to God status. Naturalistic pantheists like ruined it for everyone because they just describe reality as God. Atheists have to either A, deny reality, which we know they don't do, or pretend to be experts that reality lacks the God-bearing attribute. Fucking credibility does an atheist have there?
And usually they just come back and say, well, that's not a God. They're the ones that are all of a sudden experts on what is and is not a God.
They'll say it's not a God because that's not what I mean when I reject God. Like, what?
Yeah, so to even have this conversation, you just have to define, you have to agree on a definition of God, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's step
even
two.
with the Christian gods, I would say if somebody says, yeah, they believe in the God of the Bible book, that's still a which one. So yes, you have to be. Yeah, there's some defining that has to go on there.
But yeah, I would say defining it's step two. That's the problem. You're saying we have to define it before we have the conversation. That part's true. I'm not disagreeing with that. That's step two is defining it. Step one is observing it. Because how do you define it if you're not basing it on the observations? You're defining it consistent with your imagination. Now, you may have the most awesome imagination in the world and you fucking nailed it, right? You fucking nailed it. Like your imagination, it dialed in and you fucking nailed it. It's still your imagination. You're going to need an observation to confirm that imagination. It's not that your imagination's wrong. I'm not saying your imagination's wrong. I'm merely asking the question, what is the justification that your imagination is correct? And the answer to that is because it matches the observation, the experience. We're all seeing it, right?
Well, if I could jump in, so I'm trying to understand what your position is. So like with regards to say like the atheist view of like of denial of God, like that's the basic position is the rejection of the evidence, or the evidence isn't convincing that a God exists. So with that being the case, then if someone were to make an assertion that, as your example, that the sun is a form of a God, and saying, and the counter to that being, well, what's your evidence that it is that not in itself just the dismissal and of that claim being made already?
No, what does it take for something to be a God?
Well, that's what I'm. Well, I guess it depends. Definitionally, what are we defining as God? So if we're looking at like
whatever the interlocutor says that it is.
Yeah, I don't want the burden of that. I put the burden squarely on them.
If they want to define the God as sun, then okay, that's your God. Now we can talk about how you know and all the other shit about it. But I have no business telling somebody else what is or is not their God. If they're being an honest interlocutor about it, if they're being a prick, I don't deal with devil's advocate. But if somebody comes in here and says, this water bottle, when it's full, is my God. Okay, we'll talk about that. But because I can't sit here and tell you what is or is not a God, who am I to do that? I accept their God exists. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with me accepting that. But at the same time, because I accept their God exists, I cannot be an atheist. That's stupid. How many gods are you allowed to accept exist and be an atheist?
Well, default is you can't accept any.
There you go.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And I'm saying that Igtheism is a proper way to address this problem. I was just asking for the
clarification on the. Right. So I was more looking for the. So like I've done like maybe not formal debates, but like with people who employ things like the tag argument that I'm sure you guys are aware of the tag argument. I don't have to get into it. But so it's just kind of that the discussion has already kind of.
You're fading out, man. You're like in and out.
The view of, well, God has to exist because tag. Man, I hate this province.
Yeah, you're coming in and out, so bear
Yeah,
with us.
Tyler, you're missing like the goal here. The goal isn't to conclude that God's not real. I don't care if God ends up being real or not. I don't care. All the gods that I'll tell you are real are just things, right? They're just things. I'm not going to quibble over whether God exists or not because I'm not the one going around godding. I have a proprietary definition for, like, if someone asks me, how do you define God? Well, I don't define God. I define human behavior. And so my definition of God is a reflection of human behavior, which is it's a meaningless, incoherent sound people use to express their unwillingness to do a valid investigation about a natural phenomenon. That's not a definition of a God. That's a definition of the word, the air quote, word use of God. So zoom out on humanity and look at how humans are using this word, and it's more akin to a sound that they're using to talk about some other situation. They're saying God, but you ask, what do they mean? And that word, when you break it down, means whatever they're saying. It almost never means what someone else means, right? It's this proprietary word that it seems like all humans have, but it's picked up from the culture. So we are introduced to these ideas in our youth or whenever, and we contemplate these imagined propositions, these imagined situations that through Chinese whispers or telephone or whatever have cropped up in our culture, and we consider them, and then we reach conclusions about them. And I'm saying, hey, if you zoom out more, you'll realize that your culture is limiting your exposure to what God is. Because when you zoom out and you take a broader picture of humanity and ask, what is God? For one, these anthropomorphized or personified gods, you will repeatedly hear people say, well, the majority of humans believe in the omni-God or the God of classical theism. And, well, what majority of humans? Are you referring to extant humans, the 8 billion of us alive today, or the 117 billion of us that have walked the planet? Because that's an important distinction. We've only had evidence of personified gods or deities for the last, say, like 8,000, 10,000 years. Before then, we have to move into things like shamanism, animism, and these beliefs are more about personifying nature, aspects of nature itself. So when we get into the majority of humans believe in X, the majority of humans, the 117 billion of us, didn't believe in whatever fucking shit, these people are talking about. That's a microcosm of the situation. The majority is a plurality, and it's usually a temporal plurality, meaning it's only true in 2026. You rewind the clock, the majority of people, like 10,000 years. Well, you rewind the clock to 4,000 years, right? 4,000 BC. Majority of people believed in polytheism or henotheism, which is polytheism. That's the majority. So it doesn't work temporally. The majority of human beings have merely personified nature. The majority of gods have existed. That's the problem. Atheists, in their endeavor to reject their personal attachments to religion, paint with a broad brush. Not all gods lack existence because you were traumatized by this microcosm of religious people. I understand the trauma you've experienced. I've experienced my own trauma, but that's not enough. The trauma's not enough for me to conclude that no gods exist. That doesn't work like that. Some gods do exist, whether you like it or not, and whether you cater your definition to only address the ones that abused you.
Well, so on. I'm a little confused because so I think when people are talking about in today's in common parlance, when people are talking about God, they're typically talking about the Abrahamic, the big three, and so that well above dominates like the culture or the theocratic or the theocracies that or theologies, sorry, that people are associating with. So typically it's the idea of the omnipresent, omnipotent, and timeless.
Yeah, the ones that hurt you. The one who touched you on the doll. I get it, man.
I'm just
I
asking
get
for
it.
the clarification. So you were saying that there are like I'm trying to understand where your position is. Like, if it so if gods don't exist, but some gods do exist, or are you like
No.
extrapolating
No.
the?
You got it backwards. Some things exist referred to as God. Some things do not exist referred to as God. You don't say some gods exist technically. Linguistic, we fuck up and say it that way sometimes. But we're not saying some gods, because the word gods here is being used categorically. You can't use it categorically. You could say some things. This thing referred to as God. Is it a God? I don't know, because I don't know what the category God is supposed to represent. I don't have a categorical marker that I could say this thing is or isn't a God because it has this particular categorical denotation, right? That makes it a member of this category. I don't have that. So and I'm arguing humanity doesn't have that either. Nowhere in our language do we have this word, God, and it encompasses all of the gods. I think all of us know this, and we would see that statement as trivial. And so in our minds, we separate them. We talk about these kinds of gods and these kinds of gods, right? Because we understand their incompatibility. And I'm saying focus on that incompatibility. Why are you calling both groups gods if when you try to merge both gods, they're not gods? They're incompatible because your definition's broken. This category is broken. And we're gaslighting each other to only consider the ones that make the category work. And I'm saying there are a lot of gods that make the category broken. And you're just arbitrarily, due to your proximity and trauma, excluding those and including the ones that hurt you. But the ones that didn't hurt you, they're not even in your psychosphere. You're not even thinking about them. So when you say God doesn't exist, you're not even referring to the sun. But you are, to me, to my ear, where I know other human beings have used this word to reference the sun. So you're fucked, like linguistically, it's fucked. The atheist is denying the existence of any God referred to as God, unless they're a God expert and they could tell me why I should give a shit about this group of ones that hurt you cognitively. And that's why you're latched on parasitically to that specific subcategory, but it ain't even a subcategory, right? It's two independent ideas here. John is not Alex. They're not the same thing. John and John are not the same thing. Just because you named one Alex doesn't change that parameter. They're two independent entities.
So yeah, okay. I get what you're saying. With regards to like sun thing is okay. I get it. I get with that. But so I think when like for in the West, we're typically referring to the God of the Bible.
Yeah, it's an
specifically
appeal
the
to
God of the Old
popularity.
Testament.
Yeah, it's appeal to tradition,
And so
appeal to
that's-
popularity. It's a logical fallacy.
Yeah, and so that's more my focus is on like the idea of the allowance or the acceptance or even the promotion of furthering the ideology and the entailments that come through the doctrines there within.
Yeah, but you're doing a logical fallacy to do that. My criticism isn't that you're shitting on dumb gods. That's not my criticism. My criticism is the shit that you're throwing at them isn't landing properly. That's the problem, is you're not properly shitting on the philosophy. Atheists miss the mark. Their deuces don't actually land on theism. They just whiz right on by. So the atheist shit doesn't actually get on theism, whereas the agnostic shit gets on both of them. It shits on both their dumbass philosophies. You got one group, air quotes group, of people making the wild, completely disconnected from reality claim in any semblance of coherence of God exists. What the fuck does that mean? Then you got the less dumb position of nuh-uh. That's atheism. Nuh-uh. But nuh-uh doesn't always land is what I'm saying, man. Sometimes gods are real. What does the atheist do? They go from appeal to popularity to feigned expertise, that they could tell me unequivocally that the sun is not God and I should just forget about that and focus on the omni-God. Fuck you. Fuck you. You don't get to tell me that this thing is or isn't a God. You're an atheist. You get to shut the fuck up and stop gaslighting me. If I want to know what a God is, I'll go to your master, which is a theist, and I'll ask your master what you believe. That's the problem with atheism. It's a contingent philosophy that requires theists to give you permission to fucking think, to reach a conclusion. If they don't define God for you, what are you rejecting? What if you walk up and they say, I believe in God, and you have that quick conversation, and you say, okay, well, what's a God? And they say, well, I'm not going to tell you. What do you do then? What the fuck do you do then? Nothing. You stand, like, logically, you can do nothing because you require their definition to tell you what God is. Try it with elephant. There are elephant experts. There are animals that are elephants. Whoever the fuck you are doesn't matter because we're talking about an elephant. You could walk up and say elephants are six-legged animals. Fuck you, you're wrong. That's an elephant. That's the distinction. Atheists do not have the luxury of pointing at the elephant and then your inconsistent definition. All you have is whatever they're telling you God is. And unfortunately for atheists, you guys only want to focus on a microcosm, a special pleading fallacy, an appeal to popularity, and say, hey, in this microcosm, I'm right. Well, yeah, in that microcosm, I'm right. But in all cosms, I'm still right. That's the problem with atheism, is you're only right in your little microcosm. I'm right all the time with this philosophy because the rejection of God is not the goal. Understanding what God is so that you could properly answer the fucking question of whether the thing exists or not should be the goal. Unfortunately for atheists, you're just going to have to accept that some gods exist because the category is broken. It's not because the Eiffel Tower is real, therefore Jesus. That's the mistake that atheists are having. They're having this hang up that if they admit that some gods exist, it leaves a bad flavor in their mouth, and their previous trauma is hurting. It's screaming at them. Don't say it. Don't say God's real. Don't do it. Right? But all you're saying when God's real is that the Eiffel Tower is real. If you're describing the Eiffel Tower as God, that's all you're saying. But the trauma of the word God is what's throwing the atheist brain off, where they're making that logical mistake, that leap to understanding the nature of God such that they can reject it because this moron they're talking to told them what God is. Why is an atheist saying that the nature of reality can be understood as a negation because this moron said some shit? What does the shit this moron said have to do with reality? You shouldn't be concluding that you know what's inside of this box you haven't looked in because the person you talked to was a moron. That's the mistake you're making. They're saying there's this thing in this box because they gave you this dumb answer about what's in it. You believe the thing's not in the box. They're not a reliable source for what's in the box. So why did you conclude about what's in the box? You should have said, hey, man, like, your story's stupid. I still don't know what's in the box, right? Like, if I say there's a big dragon inside the box, right? It's a dumb description. You'd have an issue with it. But if I said it's like a quarter, right? You're not going to have the same reaction. You're like, okay, well, maybe a quarter's in the box. You're clearly not a fucking dragon, right? You're going to have these issues, but that's the baggage you bring to the conversation, your familiarity with the propositions, and your ability to rationalize, an answer. But atheists are making these leaps, and all those leaps do is legitimize theism. Because when you get together as a group and you think that you have a coherent response, that coherent response should be addressing a coherent proposition, something you understood, because your conclusion's that it's not real. And so when I look at what you were appealing to when you reached a conclusion it's not real, that information should be credible. It should be like, this is how you reached your conclusion. Like when we look out and we look for another planet and we're concluding there's not another planet. And you look at the data and it's like, yeah, the data does indicate there's not another planet. But how do you know there's not another planet? Because you know what planets do. This is always going to fall back that the way that you make this inference is on your priors. No priors, no inference. So you can't just construct a prior in your brain as an imagination and then use that to reference reality and then build that into your deductive argument. That's fucking dumb, dude. It's dumb as shit. Dude.
So,
go ahead.
So okay, so I think I understand like where you're going from with that, and so with the discussions that I've had with regards to it, it's not necessarily like mine isn't like necessarily like obviously I don't think there is what's defined as we use in in the West as God, the omniscient, yada yada. But outside of that, I look at the documentation, the foundation of the doctrine, and what the entailment or what the allowance or what the foundation could become. So that's where, at least for me, where my focus is. It's not necessarily the God. The God, okay, well, I can conceptualize a God in my mind, but does it exist? Nah, evidence is unconvincing. But it's the documentation, the founding of the ideology, and that's more my focus. So it's more deconstructing the person's construction of this thing. It's disassembling the dragon, to use a bit of your analogy. It's already deconstructing the held ideas the person already has. Because unfortunately, I've seen in at least in my discussions with people that they unfortunately aren't very familiar with the text that's even within their own doctrine.
Yeah, but what does any of it have to do with
realization,
reality? Atheism is about a rejection of ontology, not a rejection of epistemology. That's included. But atheism, my criticism with atheism is that it's rejecting ontology.
So the problem that I have is when you're now taking you're now taking like D&D and you're now bringing it in, trying to manifest it into reality, even if it's fake, like Jim Jones,
what are you
or
about?
think of any of the. So I'm thinking of, it's one thing to have the thought, hey, a God exists. Fine, don't care. I literally could not care less if someone does. What I start having a problem with is when it's pulled into reality. This is true. This did happen, and we need to further.
Yes, sometimes
the
that
thing.
happens.
We have
though,
to further
Tyler.
text.
That happens, though. That
right,
will happen
and so
to
that's
you, Tyler.
What
do you do
focus
then?
is.
Yeah, but what do you do when it happens and God's real? What do you do?
So then that's when I start trying to deconstruct or actually ask those questions.
There's
like
nothing to ask in
getting
that
to the
regard.
person's moral or ethics.
Bro, try to focus. In the examples when I'm saying, well, what do you do when God's real? I'm only referring to a simple tautology of something like the sun is God, reality is God. What do you do in that regard? When you're an atheist, what is your answer? Your logical answer to reality equals God? What, that you just don't believe that? But we wouldn't ask you, atheist, what you believe God is. You don't get to answer the question of what you believe God is. That's that's an answer for a theist. Isness? You get to answer is not. I can ask you, is this God? And you could say that is not. That's consistent with theism or atheism. You only get to answer what God is not. The moment you answer the question, what is God? You're a fucking theist, bro. Logically, you're a theist. Only theists get to tell you what God is. So why does anybody give a flipping fucking shit what an atheist means by God? Why? Why does an atheist mean anything by God? They're literally denying ontology. There is no ontology of God in atheism. So God is nothing. That's all they get to fucking say, bro. Why do I care that an atheist says God is this specific thing? That's a theist job. I've answered this question. It's a rhetorical question. The answer is their trauma, their culture, how they were raised, what they were taught. Atheism is a rejection of their culture and their history of that culture. It's not a rejection, a proper rejection of ontology. The proposition is about ontology, that unknown object X exists. That is the proposition. Like pure philosophical endeavors is never going to answer or account to the notion of unknown object X exists. That's going to come down to ontology. It's going to come down to whether reality manifests this way or not. not whether Jesus hurt you, and because this person's calling this natural object God, it's not real. That's a dumb philosophy. It's clearly real, and your philosophy of rejecting all gods is inadequate. You should only reject the gods that deserve rejection and accept the gods that deserve accepting, which is just has ontological status, because the question of atheism is merely about the ontology. Does it exist or not? Not whether it should be worshipped, not whether it's good or bad. Those are epistemological questions. Those are your questions about the way that you experienced it. But atheists are addressing the ontology. Theists are addressing the ontology. And they go into the epistemology because you guys take them there. You let them walk right through the fucking doors of ontology, and you set them down at the epistemological table. I'm still at the table of the ontology asking, what are you going to put down on the table? I'm like checking your bags before letting you in the door of epistemology. Did you bring the thing? Because if you did not bring the thing, you're not allowed in. You get to sit outside until you go get a thing. You bring that thing inside, and then epistemologically, we'll try to figure out what that thing is. We don't go into the epistemology room and then try to like think real hard, and then boom, there's some ontology. That's fucking dumb. It's so much easier when you just observe. It's so easy to describe stuff when it's based on the description. You don't even need to remember it. You could go find a brand new thing, super confusing, right? Pick it up, flip it around, put it in your pocket. You don't got to remember a single attribute. Not one. Because as soon as you pick it and pull it out of your pocket and you look at it again, it's going to be like that. Maybe it's got 176 characteristics, right? You don't got to remember a single one of them. Not one of them. Because it'll do that for you. And then when you go to describe it, all you got to do is remember to look at it, right? You don't have to remember that it's black. You could just forget. You could observe it, it's black, and immediately forget it. And then just look at it again. Boom, it's black. You don't have to remember its 167 individual attributes. You just flip it over. Oh, it's round, right? It remembers what it is. And so it's got that on lockdown. That's the ontology. It's got that covered. The epistemology is just us flipping it around and then describing it. And the epistemology should be matching the ontology. That's what we're discussing. When I say nuh-uh, I'm saying your epistemology is inconsistent with the ontological status. Incorrect. That's the nature of that. But if there's no thing, then what's your statement wrong with reference to? Your own imagination? As long as you don't have a contradiction, you're right. That's all it takes. All you need is just don't have a contradiction. What does it mean to have an object with 167 characteristics in my pocket, and it has all of those characteristics as long as I don't contradict myself? What the fuck does that mean? That's dumb as shit. Dumb as shit. It has whatever characteristics it has regardless of what I remember or assert about it. And no one's going to give a shit that I've misrepresented it the moment I take it out of my pocket and put it on the ontological table, and they start making observations, and they see that it's black and it's round and it's got all these 167 characteristics that my dumb ass couldn't remember, right? This is why it is irrelevant that an atheist define the widget in some way that's consistent with the way that they feel about how they should because they remembered their inculcation. Dude, this is... Atheists are just as deluded as theists, man.
So are you more looking at like the metaphysical property of thing?
I'm not, but yeah, I could be accused of doing that. I don't really do metaphysics, but yeah, I understand how a lot of what I say gets into metaphysics because nerds do metaphysics and they equate it that way.
Yeah, so I'm yeah, and that's you know the just the idea, like I can understand, and I wouldn't say I've floated with, like, do I know that God exists? Ultimately, I don't know.
Yes, you do.
Don't know.
That's what I've been telling you this whole time, Tyler.
Like,
you do know that some things referred to as God do exist. The question you're struggling with, Tyler, is that thing that you accept exists that's being referred to as God actually a God? What's a God? but the ontology of things being referred to as God is true. You were misled. You were gassed. Dude, a mountain of bad evidence is a mountain of bad evidence. It's not nothing. Bad evidence is evidence. And if you ignore bad evidence as evidence, then yeah, when you look at the problem, where's the evidence? There's no evidence for God. Yeah, there is. There's an overwhelming mountain of fucking bad dog shit evidence called inculcation and Chinese whispers and telephone. That's what you have. Why are you rejecting that evidence? That evidence is real. What I'm cautioning you with is recognizing that when you have nothing, not nothing, but when the pile of bad evidence is overwhelming, the conclusion doesn't exist. The conclusion is it's just a mountain of bad evidence. That's the conclusion. Atheists are concluding because of the mountain of bad evidence, God's not real. That's stupid. Some gods are real, by the way. If we get past that, some gods are real. So their assertion of mountain of bad evidence, therefore not God, is wrong on multiple facets because God's the Eiffel Tower, right? And it's not a valid conclusion to say God's not real because a bunch of morons weighed in their stupid opinion.
Well, and that's where. I think I get what I understand what you're depositing. So it's more what is the descriptors of things. So as you said, like I'll just try and like reiterate. I'm just trying to understand and make sure that I understand what you're saying correctly. So like if I were to describe tree or God is a tree, I mean technically I'm correct in if I'm describing the nature and the composition and the concept of a tree is the composition of God, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
in that conversation, and only in that conversation.
Right. So then if right, and that okay. And so that's where I would look at like, okay, what is your definition of a God? And I understand the idea of like there's tons of bad evidence. I understand what you're the kind of shift that you're making with regards to that.
Well, think about the shit you're doing because I hear this from atheists all the time. They'll admit, well, it depends on how you define God. And then I check them on it real quick. I say, okay, is that true? You're saying just to lock this in, it depends on the definition. And they'll say, yeah, it depends on the definition. And then I'll say, here's a definition for you to depend on. And they'll say, okay, I'm ready. And I give them a definition to depend on. I'll say, God is the sun. Depend on that definition. And what do? Immediately abandon the definition. And they go with their wizard that abused them as a kid with the omni powers. That's what they do. They don't they say it depends on the definition. I give them a definition, and then they abandon the definition for the one they like. That's what they're doing, like logically in their brain. If it depends on the definition, you'll sound like me. If I tell you it depends on what you mean by God, and you say God's the Eiffel Tower, well, I'm going to depend on that definition. I'm going to say God's real because it depends on the definition. Atheists can't do that because sometimes people label the Eiffel Tower as God. And then they say, well, it doesn't depend on the definition. I have this definition. I'm not going to depend on that one. I already have one. I'm an expert in God identification. And I'll tell you, theists, God's not the Eiffel Tower. Well, on what? Well, the Eiffel Tower didn't, make me study it when I was a little kid and, made me eat the cracker, right? Well, the Eiffel Tower doesn't do that. It might have made you walk up some steps or something like that, and that's your trauma. But it didn't make you eat a cracker. Right there, yeah, maybe, right? It's an independent thing. And in your brain, you're making this equivocation with them as an atheist. You shouldn't do that. That's the brainwashing. That they have convinced you, the theist I'm referring to, have convinced you that the concept of God is coherent enough for you to reject it. And I'm saying by virtue of your rejection, you are legitimizing their concept because they are stuck outside the epistemology room. They're still outside the ontology room. They got kicked out of the room of the ontology because they came in, we said put it on the table. They didn't put shit on the table, so we kicked them out so that somebody else can come in and put something on the fucking table. But you guys are just ushering them past because you want to shit on them. You want to do to them what they did to you, but you're failing to understand that you're using and employing their methodology to do it. That's what's happening. You're literally making their mistakes for them to legitimize their idea, because you should be delegitimizing their idea by saying, what do you mean by God? Because think about it this way. If you're the Pope and you're saying God's Jesus and you can't get somebody to accept that, and then some other asshole comes along and says God's a pile of dog shit, and you accept that because it's met the ontological burden, what is it like for the Pope to not be able to have his God meet the ontological burden of that guy's God, who's literally just a particular pile of dog shit? This is why it delegitimizes the concept. You have legitimized the Pope's position when you take him seriously. You delegitimize the dog shit deity's God when you don't take them seriously. Why would you do that? Why would you build up the Pope's position by not making him do the exact same thing that dog shit God did, right? Show the pile of dog shit. Show the Jesus. That's it. Just show the Jesus. Show ontology. That's the objection, is what is the ontology? Atheists just said, fuck it. They'll never meet the burden of ontology, but I still want to shit on them. So you just let them walk right through the fucking door, and now you're talking about the epistemology of God. Whether God loves you, whether it wants to chop your baby's dick off, whether all these things, right? These become the conversation. But then how do you know God does or doesn't want you to sever baby dicks, right? Like, how do you know that? You go to the epistemology, the books, what the people are saying. You never derive it from the ontology because you've foregone that. You said it's not required. We're going to lower the standard for you theists. Come on in. That's what you've done. And I'm saying Igtheism is saying, no, I want to see it before we let you in, because there's nothing to talk about unless we can make some kind of, have some experience of it. Otherwise, we're just talking about our imagination, and that's across the street.
So, okay, so if I could, kind of like a bit of a hypothetical. So
You're cutting out, man.
On, I don't know, unnamed Eastern, I'm going to enact his will by. Man, fuck this province. All right, we good now? Maybe.
You start over.
Okay, so if I could, just like a bit of a hypothetical. Let's say a certain Eastern Orthodox individual comes and says, God is real, and I believe everything he says, and I'm going to enact his will by changing the fabric of a nation. So how would you end up ending something like that, or refuting something like that?
Yeah, so the first things first on that is, don't think that Igtheism isn't prepared to make an argument against anybody and employ other philosophies. Igtheism's only dealing with one particular fact of the conversation, but when it comes to, like, you're dealing with ethics. You got some guy moving in that wants to change the zeitgeist, and, what do? Well, you combat it. You battle reason. I understand they're going to be slinging things at you like, well, my God wants me to do this. Appeal to reason. Stay reasonable, right? Address whatever they're saying in a reasonable light. Use secularism or naturalism or something to properly contextualize a rebuttal. But nuh-uh, that's not a proper rebuttal, because they're, like you said, making behaviors. They're moving in society. They're shaping society with their deluded position. It doesn't mean don't combat it. Don't fight it. Don't object to what they're saying. I object to both theists and atheists on a daily basis, and a lot of my theistic rejections sound like atheist rejections, because a lot of them are things that I've learned from listening to atheists. But atheists do have a lot to contribute. They have a lot. Listen, like allegedly Ian, like, he's really good at using logic to get through it. He identifies as an atheist, right? He is providing these arguments, but I don't think they're atheist arguments. They're arguments born of logic, and logic is not atheist. Atheist is just a rejection of theism, but theism is what? You're legitimate. It's like, do you think the level of coherency for stamp collector is the same for God belief? Hopefully you could see one is just immensely ambiguous and one is not. And the lack of ambiguity with stamp collecting means that it means something to not stamp collect.
Right, and so I guess that's kind of the difference. So, like, if someone is just kind of has the position of like, hey, I believe in a God, as I said earlier, it's like, okay, cool story. Like, so how was your weekend? That's more or less how that conversation would end up going.
It depends on what kind of God belief they have. If their God belief is that every Friday they sacrifice 6 babies and it's Saturday, then I know yesterday you sacrificed 6 babies and I don't want you anywhere near me. Right? It depends on the type of religion.
Right, and that's what I was saying. Now it's pulling it into reality, and it's kind of that focus is, yes, I've had actually quite a few discussions talking about the ethics and the morality in, typically we're talking about the big 3, that, well, is that moral? Is it ethical to do a thing? Is it okay should we do this thing? Should we be, if a kid talks back to you, should we bash the kid's head in because, well, a sky daddy said so? Like, that doesn't seem good. That doesn't seem like something that we should be encouraging within society. So, like, that's where, like, for me anyways, like I said, it's when you start now dictating that we should operate this way. Ultimately, I don't care if someone thinks their God has 6 arms and plays a violin on the weekend or some shit. Like, okay, don't care. But are you compelling? Are you forcing me to now believe this thing, or under the threat of death? Or is it just, hey man, I know I can't prove Bigfoot's real, but Bigfoot's fucking real. All right, I don't see the issue with that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, inherently we really shouldn't concern ourselves that people believe something, right? It's what they believe and what do those beliefs typically cause or compel people to do. You could take extreme examples. There may be a person out there that just wants to do extreme levels of violence, right? But doesn't. Like, they battle with it all the time. They go to anger management or whatever, and they just get through it. Maybe they become a Marine or a cop or something, so that every now and again they can squeeze that and scratch that itch or something. But you learn to cope. You learn to deal with those kind of problems in society. So just because you hold a particular belief doesn't mean you will do a certain thing, but it's definitely a good indicator. So yeah, you as a social animal that we are, we got to make reads of people around us. We've programmed how many times you heard in the news, he was a God-fearing man, and it was about some guy that did some crazy shit. Oh, that was wild. He did it. He was a good Christian. We have programmed ourselves to believe that this cultural trope that because you believe in a God somehow makes you a better person, because you tell each other that in churches. But what people need to realize is there's a disproportionate overrepresentation of theists in church. You would think that if it was a shock that he did it because he was a good Christian, you would see an overwhelming deficit of religious people in prison. But we don't. We see more religious people in prison. So the trope of, I can't believe he did it, he was a God-fearing man, is just gaslighting bullshit that we tell each other because we're just lying to ourselves. We're circle jerking ourselves, making us believe we're doing the right thing when the evidence is to the contrary, that you become a worse person the more religious you become, because you become more galvanized in your in-group, and your in-group is, when it comes to religion, necessarily in the extreme minority. More people
and this was
disagree.
one thing I can't remember. I can't remember what the article was, but it was like a guy. He was talking about that God speaks to him, and God commands him to do these types of things. And like, if you just took the word God out and said, leprechauns tell me what to do, and I go and do the things the leprechauns tell me to do, we would go, that person's fucking insane. They need some type of help.
Not if everything the leprechauns told him to do was awesome. We would say he's eccentric.
Well, maybe, yeah. But I can't remember the extent of what this guy was doing. I don't remember the particulars, but just like the idea that this thing talks to me, this imaginary being in my head talks to me and tells me what to do, and I listen to the voices in my head.
You don't have those voices? You don't have an inner dialogue? I have an inner dialogue. Talks to me all the time.
No, I had the inner dialogue, yes, but the something outside of my inner dialogue, a third voice or something else comes in and says, Tyler, go and do this thing, and I just obey.
Yeah, but
rather
my
than
question's
having
still
the
important.
conversation with myself.
My question's still important because inner dialogue can be conflated to voices. Someone just having inner dialogue might not have the knowledge of what inner dialogue even means and just call it a voice in their head that they hear talking to them, and they don't know that it's their own voice. Some people don't have an inner dialogue. They literally don't have it. There's no voice in their head when they read a book and shit like that. So what I'm saying is, just because someone's telling you they're hearing voices in your head, that don't mean shit per se. Or you have to look at, okay, well, what is the context of these voices that they're hearing, and what is it causing them to do? If the voice in their head is causing them to be an upstanding citizen and they always make the best decisions, what the fuck do you care that they're hearing voices in their head? It's when it causes conflict, right? When they stop eating because the fucking radio won't shut up, that's an issue. But hearing voices in your head, that's fucking normal. It's just when those voices become external, when, like you're saying, they're coming from external, like it's coming from the radio. That's when the issue is. It's because that's an actual voice in your head, right? Otherwise, it's probably just your inner dialogue, and there's probably varying levels of creativity. Maybe somebody, when they have an inner dialogue, they hear multiple different sensories inside their head, right? Maybe they got a little bit of synesthesia going on, and when they have an inner dialogue, it just sounds like an external voice, but they can tell the difference, right? And then there's those people that don't have an inner dialogue. Maybe inner dialogue to them is just feelings, intuitions, things like that. It never achieves inner dialogue, right? So you gotta caution your conclusions and taper your conclusions, or tailor your conclusions to the claim or to the evidence.
Like, I'm driving, so I can't pull up the article or the thing that I can't remember if it was an article or I was listening to something. Whatever. It's irrelevant to the point. But like, we've kind of, if someone just says, "Oh, God commands me to do this thing," we just kind of like, "Oh, okay, that's okay." But if we put in anything else, like let's say that, God commanded me to go and go shoot up an orphanage or something, like we kind of almost excuse it. Like, we don't. It's such a weird thing. Once the name or the descriptor God is invoked, it gives like a hall pass.
Yeah, I'll tell you where specifically that sort of happens is so like a ground zero somebody might relate to would be speaking in tongues and being in a very charismatic church. These people will put on performances, and people in that parish or church will believe it, right? And then there will be people in the crowd that don't have those experiences. They don't hear tongues or they don't feel elations and stuff like that, but they'll perform, right? It's part of social pressure. It's in-group, out-group dynamics that a lot of the time psychologically you'll be primed to sort of ignore that information to fit that in-group. And so, yeah, ground zero example, that would be people in charismatic churches should be able to see that, yeah, they're not hearing any of these voices in their head, and then other people are. And where the problem really lies with that, because that in and of itself is not necessarily a problem. That's performance. But where it really comes to a head is when one of those people who is feeling elated and they're flopping around on the ground and doing all the crazy things is an actual schizophrenic. If in any other context they were doing this, they would be viewed as a crazy, right? We would be looking at them saying this behavior is abnormal, but because they're surrounded with people who believe you should be hearing voices in your head, the voice of God, it's speaking to you, or maybe you're hearing the voice of Michael or an archangel or something like that. It's normal. It's been normalized to hear these voices in your head, and the result is they run camouflage or defense for people who need psychological help, because the behaviors manifest, but the behaviors also consistent with, what is considered normal behavior within the church, which is psychological problems. So, again, like somebody hearing voices in your head, and then, like Catholic Church might even be accused at some point of like doing exorcisms and shit on these people, right? That they are actually mentally disturbed people and they need help. But because the church is used to hearing about demons, they just assume it's a fucking demon and they torture this, poor individual. So it's a fundamental attribution error. Everybody's guilty of it. Everybody's got these things in their head because everybody was inculcated with bullshit. So unless you've spent a long time going through your own head and unfucking all the damage that society did to it, then you just got to caution yourself that you're probably making a whole host of these kinds of attribution errors and reaching conclusions that aren't warranted, but are justified within its own internal logical framework. Like demons and schizophrenic people. It's consistent with your internal logical framework if you're a Catholic that demons exist. So you're not looking for schizos, but obviously there's people that are Catholics and they identify schizophrenia just fine. But the point is that these people fly under the radar. Where they need psychiatric help, they get divine help. They get holy water thrown at them and screamed at for hours.
Yeah, I kind of think like with our ability then to find evidence with just the mountain of evidence. I've unfortunately, and I've kind of been bringing this up more and more, is like, so I was listening to John Colin, I don't know. I just happened to come across his YouTube channel, and he was talking to an individual, and so he was asking a question like, if God commanded you, to kill a baby, would you do it? And the guy's like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would do it. If God commanded you to, rape a woman, would you do it? And the guy's like, yep, I would do that. Yeah, if God commanded me to do it. And it's like some of the most atrocious and horrible things like imaginable, to torture someone. And the guy's like, yep, if God told me to do it, I would do it. And like, that to me is it's disturbing. And that's where, again, I talk about like you're not pulling your fantasy into reality. That if you heard a voice in your head say, go and bash that baby's skull in, you would do it without question. And that to me was such a, what in the fuck is going on here? I think the quote that I ended up hearing was, like, you're one revelation away from becoming ISIS.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not defending them, but you also have to understand that there are extremes that could happen that would force a person to do a horrible thing for the greater good. Like the classic example of aliens came down and said, kill that baby or I'm going to annihilate your whole species. Your whole species is immediately going to start begging you to kill that baby. Well, maybe not your whole species, but most of us are going to start saying, kill that fucking baby, bro. It's a horrible thing. And, if you're like, oh, great, finally, my time, and you get excited about doing it, yeah, you're probably a fucked up individual, dude. But
my time to shine. I've been waiting for this day forever.
But if you do it with the, the dignity and respect that it would deserve, yeah, I mean, that's on you. But your attitude towards it really doesn't change anything because the aliens just wanted you to kill it. And now it's dead, and now we all get to live. We all just have to eat that fucking humble pie and live under the rule of these kinds of fucking aliens and shit. So if you are convicted of the existence of aliens and that they wanted you to kill the baby and they're going to annihilate your whole species, then yeah, you better do it, bro, for the greater good. So again, I'm not justifying that shit that you were saying because it's a different scenario. But yeah, no behavior should just be completely off the table like that because there are extremes. And you have to be able to navigate the situation. I used murder a baby, but I could have said other things. And then what? You remember what was that? Black Mirror? You had to do the pig. I don't know if did you see Black Mirror?
I have, but it's been a while. That shit kind of blends together. Like it's all just like a dystopian of oh fuck.
Yeah.
This
It
shit
was like
sucks.
the first episode. It was where the unknown terrorist guy made him have sex with the pig on TV. And it's like, what do you do then? Right? Aliens say, fuck that pig or we're killing your whole fucking species. Bruh. I mean, it's harder, right? It's harder. In our brains, it's a lot harder to rape a pig than it is to kill a pig, right? It's easy to kill
I
a
don't
pig.
care if you save me or not. I'm still calling you a pig fucker.
And then you got to fucking deal with that. You got unappreciative assholes who will call you a pig fucker.
Doing it 100% every day.
Right. Well,
I remind
and that's
you
the
of
difference of like the evidence of like there is a thing in front of you that has absolute authority. Like I can see, okay, it is there. We all see it. Like it is real. It is as real as fucking, you know, anything else that you can see, touch, smell, and feel. It is there. That is very different than like it's, you know, a difference in something in my head says go do this thing. I command you to go do this thing. And then that's when it becomes the to put that amount of weight into that. And that's kind of an interesting thing that I see. Like almost every like Christian that I talk to, like describing God, it's all, none of them are the same. They're all different. They're all an independent experience of a thing. It's just, to me, it's interesting the psychology and the how these kind of things just become, and we just adhere to it, and the influence of it, and you know all the things that go along with this type of shit.